On March 26, 2010, a North Korean torpedo split the South Korean Navy corvette Cheonan in two. 46 sailors were killed, the deadliest attack between the two Koreas since the Korean War. This week marks 16 years since that night in the Yellow Sea.
서해 백령도 서남쪽 해역에서 두동강 채 바닷속으로 가라앉았습니다.
On November 10th, 2009, there was the Battle of Daecheong, which saw a North Korean patrol boat crossing the northern limit line without any provocation from the South Korean side. South Korean Navy ships, they responded, basically almost sinking a North Korean ship and pushing it back to their side of the northern limit line. North Korea threatened to retaliate, and it did have a number of what the South Korean military called provocations along that inter-Korean maritime border until March 26, 2010. You also had the ROKS Cheonan corvette performing patrol operations near the Daecheong Island, which is an island just off the NLL. So that was the pretext for what happened in March 26. Despite the warning signs, the Cheonan was conducting a routine patrol, repositioned closer to shore with no specific anti-submarine warfare intelligence that night. So I interviewed Captain Choi Won-il. He was the captain of the ROKS Cheonan corvette that was sunk on March 26th at the time. He told me that he was at his cabin when the torpedo hit for the first time. It was a clear bang. He was shifted off his seat. There was a number of people who came up with a fire extinguisher to break him out of his cabin because he was locked in because of the torpedo attack. Afterwards, he immediately rushed to see who was injured, who was bleeding, and tried to get rescue operations fulfilled to the point where the survivors could get out and also the people who were injured could get to hospital safety as soon as possible. 58 sailors survived. Rescue took nearly 2 hours in strong currents on a pitch-dark night. What was the most compelling about Captain Choi's comments to me throughout that interview was how he described the rescue operation. These were strong currents at the time. This is just after a torpedo attack. These are strong currents in a very narrow strait along the sort of line between Northern Limit Line and Daecheong. And what he was saying was that when they reached the high-speed boat, the people who were the lowest ranking officers, the level of discipline that he felt his crew had in making sure the wounded were evacuated first was something that I think really struck me as that sense of he really felt that level of camaraderie throughout his crew cohort. And just made sure every single person who survived, every single person who was wounded, get to safety as quickly as possible from those dangerous shoals. But for those who made it back, survival brought its own burden. A 2018 study found that 91.3% of survivors experienced PTSD, 58.3% had considered suicide, another 29.1% had attempted it. Many avoided seeking medical care during their service out of stigma, a decision that later made it harder to qualify for government support. As one unnamed survivor put it, the conservatives used us while the progressives ignored us.
마스크가 떨릴 정도로 두루빨이 세. 두루빨이 좀 세니까 한양 생각은 조금 더 있다가.
Well, as I mentioned beforehand, the survivors of Cheonan, the 58 survivors, they still are going through quite a high level of PTSD. They've suggested that their survival of the sinking of the Cheonan has been used from both sides of the political aisle for campaign purposes and for appealing to the general public. However, actual legal action and actual results to them to focus on their mental health, their recognition as survivors from the Defense Ministry and from the ROK Navy have been relatively little. At the same time, the ROKS Cheonan sinking, it does provide a pretext that South Korea's national security was born from people who made that sort of sacrifice, but at the same time, in order to not make that sacrifice in vain, the South Korean Navy and the South Korean Defense Ministry need to understand that their continued surge towards improving their naval capabilities against North Korean torpedo or submarine underwater threats is something that should remain a priority. The West Sea operations, or the Yellow Sea operations that were near the northern limit line at the time, especially after the Battle of Daecheong that I mentioned earlier, you had this sort of lessened priority from the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff or the South Korean Defense Ministry regarding the importance of guarding and defending the NLL, the de facto inter-Korean maritime border. That's why, due to these shallow waters next to Daecheong, there wasn't really much that the Cheonan corvette had in terms of anti-submarine capabilities. You didn't even have an anti-submarine helicopter that was up in the air. You didn't have patrol maritime aircraft that was up in the air. Of course, that's changed now with South Korea developing these anti-submarine capabilities, but that prevented the Cheonan from having all of its radar and all of its visibility and intelligence to bar such an attack from happening. Since 2010, South Korea has significantly upgraded its anti-submarine warfare capabilities. But the threat has also evolved. North Korea operates around 70 submarines, 3 to 4 times South Korea's fleet, and is now developing a nuclear-powered submarine. Well, North Korea still has an unknown number of submarines. It's not been confirmed, but it has been sort of estimated to be much more than South Korea's current submarine fleet. It's also just a couple of months ago announced that, or claimed that it has a nuclear-powered submarine that's in development and is close to being developed. This is for certain a threat to South Korean national security concerns, and also at the same time South Korea is pursuing its own nuclear-powered submarine but still hasn't consolidated where it will be built and so forth. So North Korea's current submarine capabilities and underwater capabilities are still very much improving. They're trying to make themselves into a blue water navy. When that will happen, not so sure, but with their battlefield experience in Ukraine, as well as their prospects for bolstering their naval capabilities, it's something that South Korea will have to keep in mind going forward. In 2023, a new ship took the name Cheonan, a modern frigate commissioned into the ROK Navy's second fleet. In January 2024, its commanding officer was Captain Park Hyun-soo, a survivor of the 2010 attack. 3 other survivors serve alongside him. 16 years on, the sinking of the Cheonan remains a defining moment in South Korean naval history, and a warning about the cost of underestimating an adversary. 46 names, one lesson that hasn't changed.